we might all be saved from the tyranny of Kathleen Kennedy. And I really hope that this is true. I've been following the story about the reboot, or the possible erasure of episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Star Wars, and I gotta say, I really, really hope that this is true. So, apparently, it's a very much back and forth. Information is, first they say they're going to do it, then they say they're not going to do it. There's apparently, the only thing that is known is that there's a huge civil war going on in Disney right now. Over, essentially between Kathleen Kennedy and the Star Wars loyalists, essentially, the George Lucas loyalists, and the Dave Filoni loyalists, and those people. My people, and basically the people of any, dare I go out on a limb and say any lore-respecting Star Wars fan. Bring on the flames, which I know I will get for that comment, but yeah. So, apparently what is happening is that the people at Lucasfilm are seeing the reactions that the Star Wars is getting. They're seeing the reactions that the shows are getting, that they're planning, that they released teasers for and posters for. They're seeing the reactions that Marvel, who is owned by Disney, their pet project shows are getting. That they're sort of waking up to the fact that the true fans of the entertainment and movie culture are not accepting the agenda that they've been trying to push down us for the last 6 or 7 years. And they're trying to make amends to fix it. They're trying to undo their mistakes, literally, and they're trying to go back. What they're intending to do is essentially have a retcon in the universe itself to literally erase the timeline up until a certain part in the timeline. Up until, I believe, using the Star Wars Rebels story. Specifically, the Rebels episode dealing with the Veil of the Force, which is essentially the episode where Ezra and Ahsoka encounters sort of it's called the World Between Worlds. It's an ultra dimension utilizing bends in time and space connected to the Mortis gods that allow you to view and interact with the past, present, and future. So using this mechanic, it would be possible to partially erase a certain future. That future, of course, being episodes 7, 8, and 9. Now, this has not gone over well with Kennedy, obviously. There's been reports about Kennedy doing basically everything she can to stop it. One article says that, in essence, this plan is a complete repudiation of everything Kennedy has done at Lucasfilm. It undermines, if not utterly destroys, Kennedy's feminist forward agenda. He adds, Kennedy hates this idea with a passion. It is a slap in the face that she will not tolerate if she has anything to say about it. But according to rumors, her tenure at Lucasfilm may be growing short. So, and this article was actually on June 24th, and there's other articles explaining that she may actually step down in in protest. Which, I would be throwing a fucking party and throwing rice in celebration as she walked out the fucking door. That is how much disdain I have for Kathleen Kennedy and what she has done. And this opinion is shared by a lot of people. A lot of new movies for the last 5 to 7 years have been pushing the feminist and diversity button agenda. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that button being pushed, but, and this is probably the biggest but you will ever hear me say, it's not what you're doing, it's how you're trying to do it. And it's also a complete failure to read the room as well. One thing that's very, very important that I really don't think that all of the directors and producers who are making these decisions to basically turn every source of entertainment literature into a identity politic debate or presentation. One thing they don't seem to understand is that they were preaching to the choir isn't quite the right term, because not everyone who read the comics or watched the movies maybe agreed with, you know, leftist policies or feminism to that extent. But the thing that they didn't understand is that fans of these genres, of Star Wars, of Marvel, of DC, even Doctor Who has been tanked from what I hear, even though I don't follow the series. We didn't give a fuck. Okay? And this is to them. We don't give a flying fuck about what gender the main character is, about what race they are, about what their sexuality is. We don't care. We, for the vast majority of us, we've never cared. What we actually care about is story. And for the graphic novelists, maybe good artistry. We don't care. As fans of a fandom, we don't care about the gender identity politics or the diversity identity politics. We don't care, and we have never cared. Because of that, all we care about is, does the story work? Does the story forward the universe? Does it make sense? Is it entertaining? Is it a good read? Does it mesh well? Do the characters have good growth? All of that. That is what we are focusing on. So if you put a homosexual, transgender, bisexual, pansexual, Asian as a main character, As long as the story is good, we won't care. For us, you've won the battle of diversity because it never mattered to us. Diversity never mattered to us in the context of these stories. However, when you take those diversity elements and then you proceed to grab a cannon rod and start jamming the diversities down our throats, that's when we start to care. When you compromise story for identity politics, that's when we start to care. When you compromise tradition, and when I say tradition, I'm referring to canon tradition. When you compromise lore tradition, when you compromise story pattern tradition to make way for gender equality and racial politics messaging in such a blatant, uncaring way, that is when we care. The new animated show, I think it might be animated, I wasn't sure, that Kennedy sponsored, the director isn't even a fan of Star Wars, isn't even familiar with Star Wars. She has had no connection or investment in Star Wars whatsoever. What she's there for, the entire purpose, is to shove the gender identity. You are having a franchise now being run by people who don't care about the franchise. Who say, oh, this is popular. Let's take this and use it as a platform to push our own political agenda. Again, I'm not a fan of Doctor Who, but even I felt their pain when they did basically an erasure of basically all of the some of the greatest moments in the history of Doctor Who. They did a timeline erasure with the new Doctor in the name of the feminist messaging. And it's the erasure, and it is the disregard, and it is the disrespect of the original content. That is what we care about. That is why we are angry. That is why these movies have failed. That is why so many of these shows and Star Wars has gone pretty much down. There have been a couple of exceptions. And those exceptions have usually been cancelled. Rogue One was a masterpiece. Rogue One was an example of a true masterpiece of Star Wars lore for the new canon series. And it had a female lead character. They didn't try and shove equality down our throats. I mean, it was a strong female lead, but it didn't push it. If you want to see an example of a strong female lead, look at Rogue One. You want to see an example of a strong female character? Look at a strong female character besides Jyn Erso, I guess would be, adult Ahsoka Tano. I hesitated saying her name because I know that she gets a lot of flack occasionally, but that's primarily for the first few seasons of the Clone Wars. It is possible to have those messaging talking points in movies. And it is possible to show fans, oh, you can have it be with a main character that's a woman, and she can be powerful. Okay, that's good. The best, if they're listening, this is my personal advice to them. The best kind of messaging is when you don't know you're being given a message until you look back on it and realize how that message affected you. When you can go and watch a film or an episode or a movie or see a piece of entertainment literature and you can accept it just how it is, and then once you get out and a few days or weeks later you say, I just realized something. That girl who played in that one movie, she was a girl and she was black, right? That's interesting. I've never seen a black female lead. When you have people accept it at that level, that is how you push the message. You present the diversity. You don't overblow it. And you present it as a point of obvious fact. The characters don't mention it. You don't mention it. The story doesn't have to mention it. You present it as a point of obvious fact. And allow people to have their own growth at their own speed. Some people will accept it immediately. Some people won't. All you need to do is get the message out there that you wanted. The message of equality. What Disney and the rest of these big companies have done is, in a way, far more damaging to the feminist and racial justice movements than if they had done nothing. Because people are now jaded against those movies and those messages. Because those messages are now associated with a feeling of negativity, with a feeling of pressure, with a feeling of compliance or pressure to comply. They may have meant well, or they may have just said, you know what, this we think is vogue, so we're going to push it. I don't know what their intent was. But I can't really imagine that there are any actual far-left members of high-ranking CEOs at Disney. Because, as a general rule, most CEOs are not far left. And that is a point of fact that I can get into at another time, but this is not meant to be a political video, even though what we're talking about definitely has political overtones. But I really hope, with everything in me, that Kathleen Kennedy is either kicked out of the franchise or decides to leave. She needs to be gone. And this mindset needs to be gone. Because this mindset is not only poisoning this franchise that some people actually do give a fuck about, but it is also directly and or indirectly harming the very movement that they apparently profess to believe in. I really, really hope that this is actually going to happen. I really hope this is going to happen because it needs to happen. It needs to happen. If we are to move forward both as a fandom and as a culture, this needs to be shifted. Anyway, it's just a thought. Everyone have a good day.